Welcome here at the Balie, live from Amsterdam. Also here are the live audience and the people at home during the live stream. Thank you so much for joining us here in the Balie for this special program, which we are really honored to organize together with Lifeline Ukraine, a foundation that provides emergency aid near the front line already for a lot of years. The founder, Jeroen Ketting, is over here. We will see and hear him later, together with his colleague. We will talk also, of course, with our former Minister of Defense, and right now the prime party leader from the VVD in our chamber. And here on the table we have gathered three mayors. The mayor of Amsterdam, a very warm welcome, Femke Halsema.
Thank you.
We welcome also Natalia Musiienko. You're the mayor of Vilniansk. Welcome. And Anatolii Fedoruk, the mayor of Bucha. Welcome. This program, of course, is organized to give us, from the Dutch perspective, more insight in how it right now is to live in a Ukraine city, what is a daily pressure means for living there, but also to act as a mayor. What does it mean? What does it bring you on that level? And also, what is Amsterdam doing to help those cities already? What can we do more? And also on the national level, what's been organized? What can we do also from our civic and civil perspective? I think it's important to start with the fact that you have now been here in Amsterdam. And Natalia, maybe I can ask you first, how is it to be here? How does it feel?
Взагалі, я зачарувалася в місто Амстердам. Воно дуже гарне, дуже вишукане і дуже таке тепле і рідне. Дякую за таке місто, що є воно в нас. І це місто є, і Нідерланди в цілому. Це не просто друзі, це помічники. Це надійне тепле плече, яке завжди поруч, яке завжди в будь-яку хвилину готове допомогти. І мої містяни із Запорізької області відчули це практично з перших днів війни. Дякую.
I am very enchanted by Amsterdam, by this very, very nice and charming city, which I really fall in love with. It's such a nice city, such a welcoming city, which I and the members of my community fall in love with, and are really we like to be here. I feel myself very welcomed here. I feel the charm and vibe of Amsterdam, and I like it a lot. Thank you so much for inviting.
Well, thank you so much for your warm words. You're from Vilniansk, a city living under constant pressure and attacks near the front line. What is the situation right now?
Я хочу сказати, що ситуація взагалі найгірша зараз на Запорізькому напрямку, на превеликий жаль. 20 кілометрів від лінії фронту дає про себе знати. Це FPV, це дрони, це каби, яке летить постійно на наших містян, на Україну і в тому числі на Запорізьку область, яка на сьогодні в дуже скрутному становищі. Я навіть говорила вже сьогодні про те, що я не сказала своїй громаді, що я від'їжджаю, тому що це хаос би був в громаді. Я сказала, що тільки до Києва. В кожному місті громада дивиться на очільника, чи залишається він з людьми, чи виїхав десь за кордон, чи десь в таке укромне місце, де тихенько на Україні. Але я не мала права просто не приїхати до вас, не подякувати за ту підтримку, за ту допомогу, яка дійсно була суттєвою від команди Єрона, від Live Ukraine, тому що це практично з перших днів. Знаєте, починалося це все із такого елементарного. Я вибачаюся. Ви зупиняйте мене.
Okay, let's start. So the situation in the Zaporizhia region now is very, very sad and terrifying because it's only 20 kilometers to the front line, and that's why we always have a CAPS, FPV, we have drones, we have shelling all the time, and the situation there is very disturbing, much stressful and horrible. And being here is a very nice and special for me. And I already told today at the previous discussions that my members of my community, they didn't know that they don't know yet that I came here. They are thinking that I'm still in Kyiv. I had to lie to them, but because all the time people in the community, they're checking what their leader is doing. Is their leader still with them? Is the leader somewhere away? Is leader staying with the members of the community? So I didn't tell them that I came here, but I really had to come here because I wanted to say thank you for all this continuous support, for all what you are providing for us now. And my personal remarks that she will tell that she's here later.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Anatolii Fedoruk, you're the mayor of Bucha, a city that became known because of the horrific massacre in 2022. And the scale of what had happened there only became clear to the outside world after the Russian troops withdrew in April 2022. You were hiding in Bucha during these cruelties. How did you manage to guide your city through the aftermath of this massacre, of this crisis?
Я вас, можливо, трішечки здивую. І під час вторгнення, і під час окупації роль і місце голови громади, воно, напевно, визначено не лише там в законі, в директивах, в постановах, воно, скоріше за все, визначено в серці і в твоїй відповідальності перед громадою.
Maybe I will say something surprising, but during the occupation or during the invasion, the role of the mayor is not only prescribed in the laws or some directives, it is prescribed in your own heart.
Ми всі розуміємо, що для росіянина, окупанта, мішенню номер один в місті, яке вони окупували, є посадова особа, міський голова. За період окупації 37 моїх колег з окупованих територій перебували і перебувають в російських тюрмах, тому що вони спеціальну статтю ввели під час так званого СВО для того, щоб осуджувати і світу показувати, що мери, яких обрали люди, до яких вони прийшли зі зброєю, є, оказуються, злочинцями, тому що вони супротив чинять їхньому СВО.
During the Russian occupation, the head of the municipality and the people who are working for a municipality has become the target number one. And so there are 37 colleagues currently from Bucha that are in the Russian prisons at the moment. And why is that? Russia created a special convention, a special line in their legislation that if you are selected as a member of a council and you represent your people, according to them, that's unlawful. And they hide them in the prisons.
And that makes you an enemy.
And that makes you an enemy, yes.
І на превеликий жаль, є факти, і ми маємо про це говорити. Колеги мої в всьому світі, і суспільство має знати, що цивільну людину, обрану людину росіяни розстрілюють. Так було з мером Гостомеля, який поруч із Бучею, так і з головою старостої громади, всю родину з дітьми за те, що вона проявляла свою патріотичну українську позицію, із Мотижина розстріляли. І так в кожному із тих окупованих міст, куди дійшов росіянин, він діє. Тож навіть в цей складний період часу ми все одно, як представники громад, муніципалітетів, маємо бути із своїми громадянами, проявляти лідерство, тому що громадяни, коли немає ні зв'язку, ні засобів комунікації, націлені і згуртовані виключно під керівництвом того чи іншого міського селищного голови, як в нашій ситуації.
Unfortunately, and the broader society needs to know about that, but Russia has murdered a number of city mayors, and for instance, from Gostomel, or there was a city mayor who was murdered together with her family from Matyzhin, and that happens in a lot of occupied cities. And for the city leader, for the city mayor, this role is utterly important. Why? Because when there is no means of communication, there is no support from the outside world, so people are gathering around the city mayor, and that's why the leadership of a city mayor is so important.
Natalia, when you hear this about the local leadership, what is needed, what does this do with your own civil courage? What does this do with your own humanity?
Знаєте, кожен міський голова – це така сама людина, як громада, як кожен член громади. Та сама людина, яка переживає, яка колотиться, яка співчуває, яка обіймає, яка втрачає. І тому, перш за все, це залишитися людиною в цій ситуації, такою, як і громада, щоб вони це відчували.
Every mayor, every head of the state is also a member of community, and such a normal person as another person in community. He also fights, he fears, he loves, and it's important to stay this personal, to not lose this humanity.
А особливо в маленькому місті, де один одного знають і знають все про тебе, про твою біографію, і або довіряють тобі, або не довіряють. Моя громада довірила мені 4 скликання, я більше 20 років працюю своєю громадою, я її просто обожнюю, найцінніше, що в ній є, це люди. І я, напевне, здогадуюсь, що люди просто цінують це.
And also, I was elected 4 times, and I am now the head of the state for 20 years. And I presume that people then appreciate what I am doing to them and keep staying with them in these hard times.
Okay, thank you so much. Mayor Femke Halsema, when you listen to these very also personal stories about resilience, about the pressure, also the fact that people can be the enemy for the Russians, are imprisoned, sometimes killed. What does this mean for you with the perspective of being a mayor?
Well, you realize how privileged you are here in the Netherlands, living in freedom. I think that's the first thing. And let me just start by welcoming you again on behalf of all the people from Amsterdam, because we are really happy to have all the Ukrainian friends. Well, I think in times of war, you see what the symbolic position of a mayor can be, being also, as we say, the father or the mother of the city, and not only one who safeguards the public order, but also is responsible for, well, all those people in need. And I think that both of you show how important this is.
Talking about resilience, Anatolii, we also understand, of course, that it's a hard time for being a mayor to keep your civilians in town, because people are afraid, are looking ways to sometimes flee out of the city. That's also, of course, what's happening in Bucha. What does it mean to keep the society alive, to keep also the city alive?
З вашого дозволу, з кінця, щоб люди повернулися. Після деокупації відразу Коли з'явився через Starlink зв'язок, мені попало до перегляду повідомлення між нашими двома панянками, одна в Німеччині, друга, до речі, тут в Нідерландах була. Вони переписувалися між собою і запитувала одна другої, чи збирається ти повертатися після тої різанини, яку вчинили росіяни в Бучі. І та, що з Нідерланд, запевнювала, що ні, я не хочу, щоб мої діти жили в тому місці, по тих вулицях ходили, де лилася кров, де безчинствували росіяни. І саме ця обставина зумовила робити дії практичні, щоб повернути людей.
If I may, I will start from the end. So, from the question of what I'm doing for people to return back to Bucha. And the story that I wanted to share is that once the Starlink connection went live, so I happened to read the communication between two ladies. One happened to be from the Netherlands, the other was from Germany. And the lady from the Germany asked the lady who's living in the Netherlands, so will you come back? And she said, no, for me it's not an option. I don't want my children to walk on the streets where the massacres has occurred. I don't want them to be part of that bloody story that Russia has painted. Apologies. And that was the call for me to act, to do something about it.
Тож будь-яке прекрасне місто без людей – це мертве місто. І усвідомлюючи це, ми, я вважаю, зробили максимум для того, аби повернути городян. Ми, знаєте, як після того пограбування, після гвалтування хочеться все змити, щоб нічого не нагадувало про перебування тут злочинця, росіянина зі зброєю. Вся громада, ті 2,5 тисяч жителів, які в підвалах ховалися, вони вийшли і почали прибирати. І з кожним днем прийшла на підтримку і допомогу муніципальна підтримка з українських міст, з міст партнерів. Знаєте, мій колега, мер міста Бергіш-Гладбах з німецького муніципалітету, не ставив навіть запитання, чим тобі допомогти, Анатолій, а поставив себе на місце міського голови, в якому немає ні світла, ні води, ні тепла, ні зв'язку, і почав діяти. Покроково, точно так само, як і ваш благодійний фонд нині покроково допомагає кожному муніципалітеті. І в цьому є наша сила.
If you have a city without people, that's a dead city. And then, so I ask myself, what can we do to make people come back to, and then it's the same as after, rape or anything. So you try to wash away the results, and the same thing we did. We tried to wash away the presence of Russians. So the 2,500 people that were hiding, so they went on the streets, they started to wash away the Russian presence. And we had help from the cities in Ukraine. We had help from the cities, brother cities from abroad. So I can tell you a story of the mayor of Berlin, Bergisch-Gladbach from Germany. He didn't ask me what to do. He placed himself in my shoes, and he imagined what it is like to be in a city without water, to be in a city without electricity, and he started to help, and he started to help step by step, and so that was the change. And the same was Lifeline Ukraine, so they didn't really ask; they started to help step by step, and that was the game changer.
Mayor Halsema, we have, of course, because of this massacre in 2022, a lot of refugees coming out from Ukraine towards Amsterdam. Yes. Enormous enrichment of the city on one hand, but it's, can I imagine, also a little bit a double feeling, the fact that these people are in a way needed in their own country. How do you look upon that?
Well, I think it's very important that they feel free to be in the Netherlands and in Amsterdam if necessary, but also feel free to return and also feel motivated to return. We have in Amsterdam approximately 6,000, 8,000, it differs in time, Ukrainians living here since the war started. So that's a huge community. Together with the embassy, the Ukrainian embassy, we are starting a cultural center, Ukrainian cultural center, in the city to also to make the Ukrainian culture vivid and for everyone to see, and also as a reminder of what they left behind, because I think that is very important. But it is also, as long as they feel that they have to be here, well, they have to be, they are very welcome, and they can be an integral part of our society, work, live, and demonstrate their culture.
There are, in a way, also ambassadors of their culture.
Yes, they are.
What did they tell you? What did you learn from them?
Well, I think it's the suffering you learn the most. And I think for most of us, I think in the Netherlands, war came so close to us for the first time in 80 years. Because, well, it's like family being in war situations. What I see is resilience. People are very brave. But I also, in time, acknowledge that people become more depressed, more, less hopeful about their future in Ukraine.
How do you, Natalia, listen to these stories? And what does it tell you, the fact that we have a lively Ukrainian community in Amsterdam? Is this something we can use to raise more awareness here in the city?
Я знаю, що деяка частина виїхала, покинула Україну, покинула місто, але це невелика частина. Але я дуже хочу, щоб вони повернулися все-таки додому. Але те, що ви створюєте такі умови, чудові умови, щоб люди відчували тут себе і з роботою, і з якоюсь зайнятістю, і разом з тим ще й відчували культурну свою спадщину на дотик, і в повітрі її відчували. Це дуже важливо. Дякую вам.
I know that, of course, some of members of my community in my city left the country, luckily not a big part. But now I hear and I know that how much work you do for them to feeling welcomed here, but also to be able to feel touch to their own heritage. And for example, a cultural center or something like this, that makes it so much valuable, and I appreciate that a lot.
Well, and I think we can help in protecting the Ukrainians who fled, but we can also support the cities in Ukraine. I think that is as important as protecting Ukrainians who fled. For instance, Amsterdam donated €650,000 to the cities in Ukraine through the Federation of Dutch Municipalities.
VNG.
The VNG. And we also sent our professionals to Ukraine to assist, for instance, when roads have to be repaired or electricity. So we try to help by sending people and sending money, but well, we also know it's not enough.
Yeah, talking about that, if you look for the upcoming months and even years, what do you hope that Dutch mayors can add to the situation in Ukraine? How can we be more helpful? What is needed?
Ну, насправді так, ми сьогодні маємо виклик пов'язаний з війною, але враховуючи і зважуючи на те, що Україна, українці є і будуть юридично в єдиній європейській родині, ми збагачуємося один другого, доповнюємо, ми фактично переймаємо той досвід і інтегруємося. Тому що уряди, парламенти можуть ухвалювати рішення, ми обов'язково їх будемо виконувати, але набагато практичніше, дієвіше буде, коли ми будемо через спілкування, через людське спілкування розуміти і поважати один другого, так як ми діємо нині на міжмуніципальному співробітництві.
I wanted to make a statement that we are in one European family. And this experience helps us to integrate, to better understand each other. On one hand, of course, if there are some prescriptions that are issued by the government, we will follow.
Yes.
But it's much more efficient if like we do that on mayor to mayor level, on individual level, and then this is how we learn and this is how we integrate.
And why is that more efficient? Why is it so important to do this mayor to mayor on this local level?
Тому що в наших муніципалітетах, в наших містах живуть люди. Люди не живуть під куполом парламенту чи в урядовому кварталі. Люди живуть ось в наших містах, через що це надважливо. Це найкраща комунікація, це найкраще рішення. І незалежно від того, чи це в Нідерландах, чи це в Україні. Люди вирішують все.
I will start from the end. So the main point is that people decide everything. And it's not like the decisions, of course, are made on the higher level, right? But then it's like cities to cities. Those are the where the people are. They they live, they feel, they interact, they kind of integrate. And that's much more efficient.
Well, if I may add something to that, aside from being one European family and also feeling one European family, I also think that cities become more important, and as local democracies become more important in a period of autocracy and geopolitics, aggressive geopolitics. We started the Pact of Free Cities some years ago. It was vested by Budapest and Warsaw, and it was a reaction to the autocracy in their national states. So the local governments safeguarded local democracy, and now it's a network of 50 cities, American cities, for instance, Minneapolis, Chicago, cities that fight against ICE, against their own government, also Western European cities, African cities, and I really would like to invite also Ukrainian cities, Kiev is part of it, to be part of it, because I think together we can, the tradition of democracy, of co-ownership of our citizens, is very important if, well, strong autocrat leaders are taking the power of our people.
To build resilience, local networks.
Local democracies, yes, I think that's very important.
You want to respond?
Здавалося б, в умовах війни має бути чітка вертикаль. І про яке місцеве самоврядування говорити? Кажу ні і ще раз ні. Україна, демонструючи свою європейську цілеспрямованість і відповідальність відповідно цим стандартам, в умовах війни проводить реформи в місцевому самоврядуванні. Органи місцевого самоврядування об'єднані в асоціації і обстоюють перед урядом, перед парламентом, залучаючи і міжнародну експертизу, в тому числі з Нідерландів, з європейських країн, для того, аби позиція громадян була відчутною, захищеною і мала поступ до розвитку. Наголошую, це в умовах війни.
I want to highlight that in the situation of war, you can think that there should be a clear vertical line of decision making, but I say no, no, and no once again. And we are going through a European integration, and so what we are doing is that we are conducting the reforms of decentralization during the war, where the local municipalities and local voice will be heard, and so we have that voice and we communicate with our government. And once again, so I want to highlight that this decentralization and moving to European vector is happening during the war right now.
Femke Halsema, how do you listen to that? Because there's of course always the tendency in war to make a more vertical line of, well, you say governing. This mayor is in a way pledging for the other way around, to make it more horizontal, to broaden it up. How do you listen to that?
Well, I think civil courage, as you already mentioned, starts locally. And if you want to engage your own citizens and give them a feeling of hope for their own future, you need vibrant cities and you need vibrant local communities, because otherwise people become too lonely. And especially in times of war, they need the protection of their local community.
Natalie, to end the conversation, a question for you. We have talked about your position as a mayor. We have talked about the mayor of Amsterdam and what mayors in particular can do on also the local level. And also we've been talking about the resilience of local democracy. But we are here also gathered as citizens. What do you hope? What do you ask from Dutch citizens to support Ukraine for? What can we do on our own personal level in our own local communities?
Ця підтримка вже йде на сьогоднішній день наповну через благодійні фонди, через організації такі, які допомагають щоденно. І це відчувається в Україні. Я вам хочу сказати, що цю зиму ми пережили завдяки все-таки Lifeline Ukraine. Моє місто пережило 3 блекаути, під час яких генератор, той, який був наданий для саме тепломереж, він дав можливість не розморозити систему опалення і вижити людям. Все це відчувається не тільки між нами, між керівниками, між урядами, а це все відчувається і на рівні людей. І тому мої мешканці знають найголовнішого помічника – це Нідерланди. І розумієте, оцей зв'язок навіть йде вже не через мерів, а через людей.
I want to tell that we are already feeling a lot of support, and we are feeling it all the time, and we are very thankful for it. For example, we could not, this winter we had 3 blackouts, and we could not survive the winter without continuous support, which we really get. For example, without a generator, which helped us to keep warming up systems going on, and we were able not to freeze. And also, you know, it's not only about the government, not only about the leaderships, it's about people. So our people are feeling supported, and we really feel that support. And members of my community do know that the Netherlands are our biggest friend.
Моя громада дуже добре знає і дуже оцінює роботу Єрона і його команди. Вони знають уже, що приїздить він і приїздить не з пустими руками. Розумієте, я не можу не сказати, коли в 23-му році розбито було пологове відділення в моєму місті, де загинула 2-денна дитина, про яку сьогодні згадували, на превеликий жаль. Саме відновлення поліклінічного відділення, саме багатопрофільної лікарні лягло на плечі Нідерландів, дякуючи Єрону. Тому це не просто ми доносимо. Я повернуся і скажу, чого я їздила, саме пересікала кордон для того, щоб вони мене зрозуміють, чого я тут покинула Вільнянськ, покинула Запоріжжя, покинула Україну. Я просто не мала права не приїхати, не подякувати всім вам, цій команді, яка на такому високому рівні просто по-дружньому підставляє плече, надійне, вірне і просто суперове.
So I want to thank you one more time because, for example, you could possibly know that when, for example, in my city, in my home city, it was destroyed the big hospital and fully destroyed the maternity ward. During this terrifying attack, the 2-day baby was killed, unfortunately. And when who came to restore the hospital? It was multifunctional hospital with a polyclinical department. So it was Jeroen and his team who came here to support, who came to rebuild, and who helped to help this hospital going on. And when I will come back to my city, I will of course say that I've been to the Netherlands and I've been in Amsterdam, and I came to say thank you. And they will appreciate and they will understand that, because they know how much work is done by the Jeroen and his team, and they appreciate that a lot, and I appreciate it personally as well. So we're not my city, Vilniansk, and Zaporizhia region, and all are standing with your help.
І з такими друзями, як ви, шановні,
With such a friends as you,
ми
our
обов'язково переможемо,
And we will
але
always
разом
win.
з вами.
we will always win, but with you.
Okay, thank you so much. Give them a big hand, the three mayors. Thank you, mayors here on the table. Thank you so much. Thank you. And also, of course, our interpreters. Thank you for your help. His name was already mentioned, Jeroen Ketting, founder of Lifeline Ukraine. Together with his colleague, the account director, Lifeline Ukraine, Alina Saraniuk, will have a conversation about the work, what is ahead of us. Jeroen, you take a mic and the floor is yours.
Okay, ours.
Blijven wij zitten?
Nee, we gaan een
No,
plekje
no,
zoeken.
we can
een plekje zoeken.
Can we have a second?
Ja, zeker.
Well, thank you very much, Leonard. Where do you want us to have over there? All right. Well, thank you very much. How much time are we on schedule, or? 15 minutes. Okay, very good, excellent. Oh, we need to even move further here. Correct? Well, then we're just going to sit down here. If it's let's see if Vinny is here. Have a seat. All right. Well, thank you very much for having us here. We have some important people of Lifeline Ukraine here in the room. It's, of course, Alina Saraniuk, who is sitting here next to me, who was before the vice mayor of Bucha. She was the vice mayor to Anatolii. And now we're lucky enough to have her as a country director of Lifeline Ukraine in Kiev. The other very important lady in this room is the one who's actually, I can wave to her right now, who is standing over there, who is Olga Krasko, who's the head of our Ukrainian charity foundation. So these two ladies, basically, they run everything we do in Ukraine. But But we're not so much here to talk about Lifeline Ukraine. We have some board members of Lifeline here in the audience. We have Jeroen Scholte sitting over there, who just made, or he managed the creation of a total new website. So if you want to know about Lifeline Ukraine, www.lifeline-ukraine.org. And then you can see everything about Lifeline Ukraine. I think what we hear about, I think the most interesting thing that you can hear in these, let's say, 12 minutes that are left, is maybe the personal stories of two people. Because later we will have, of course, we have Ruben Brekelmans, we have Denys Yaroslavskyi, who, will talk about the big picture in life. But here you see two people sitting. One person who, as an Ukrainian, was working in Berlin for BP, and when the war broke out, she was in Berlin and she was 26 years old. The other person, unfortunately not 26 anymore when the war broke out. The other person, that's me. I was 50 years when the war broke out. Today, actually, I became 55, so that is, well, thank you very much. You can never have enough applause, so I just thought I'd drop that in there. But I was 50 when the full-scale war broke out. I was not in Berlin, I was not in the Netherlands. I was living my 28th year as a businessman in Moscow, in Russia, the country of the aggressor. Finally, we both are sitting here around the table, two individual persons, one Dutch, who lived in Russia, who dedicated the last 5 years to Ukraine, one Ukrainian who lived in Germany and who came back actually to this city of Bucha to help her fellow countrywomen and countrymen in the city that has gone through horrendous crimes, war crimes, you can say. And I think what's interesting maybe for you is the personal story. So I would like to ask you, Alina, you were working for BP, you had a good job, your you're an amazing, intelligent, hardworking, ambitious woman. You could have stayed in Germany, and you could have made a great career there. What made you come back? It was the second month of the war, right, when you came back?
Yes, hello everyone. I see there are young Ukrainians here as well. I hope you will return as well. Just to say, I know that life in the Netherlands is good. Probably, I rode the bike this morning when I was coming here. Very nice. I wish I could do that in Ukraine as well one day, hopefully. But we hope you come back. And indeed, I returned to Ukraine since the invasion started. I was working in Germany, having a very safe, nice, stable life. But when the war broke in, I mean, to be honest, first weeks of the beginning of full-scale invasion, everybody thought it's going to end somehow. We did not know how, but we thought it's going to stop. And then on 31st of March 2022, Bucha was liberated by armed forces of Ukraine, and that's where the world saw what actually Russians are and what they did, and all of the autocracies and all possible crimes that could have been committed. They were done in Bucha. And since this is my hometown, home region, obviously, so these were very dark days in my life. And I made a decision, yeah, I'm dropping everything in a safe, very nice Germany and coming back to Ukraine to nowhere, basically, because I studied abroad. I lived 10 years before that also abroad. I knew nearly no one in Ukraine, but I felt like I cannot stay away while my country is going through this, and I have to be there to support.
So, Alina, you came back. What did you see? What did you find? How did you suddenly become the vice mayor of Bucha, which is not nothing for a 26-year-old? What was the situation you encountered, and what did you feel?
So it was not sudden. If the mayor would make me very quickly vice mayor, would be surprised, right? So I knew somebody in city council, and I called them and I said, "How can I help?" Right? So and according to Ukrainian standards, probably no one needed Excel at that moment of time, which was very relevant in my corporate life in Berlin. But they said, "What can you do?" And I said, "I speak English and German." And they were like, "Oh, we need a translator." And that was a quite career path, not up, but quite a little bit down. And I started as a translator in Bucha. Then I grew to after a while, I grew to the head of international relations department, and then I became a vice mayor to Mayor Fedoruk, whom I'm very thankful. He's a very important mentor in my career, and I'm continuing the lessons that he taught me also in Lifeline. Hopefully, we will do even more in Ukraine and help more Ukrainian gromadas on the ground.
So you came back to Bucha, and then suddenly you're dealing with people who are heavily traumatized, right? I mean, I spoke to the mayor, to Anatolii. He had to hide because the Russians were actually looking for him. He came back one night to his house when Russians were in there. He pretended to be the neighbor, just looking in on his house. These kind of crazy experiences that we cannot even imagine. But you had to deal with people who went through the worst that you can imagine a person to go through, and you would not wish that on anyone. But how was it? What did you learn about the people? Because you finally worked with the people to restore life to Bucha.
I mean, as simple as it sounds, it's I would say resilience of this, because you seriously you do not know when is the border of it, right? So every time something happened, I thought, so this is the limit, right? So this is the limit for our inner peace, inner feelings. But every time something even worse happening, even worse, and more in different regions of Ukraine. And I think this is this inner strength that Ukrainian people are genuinely having. And if we go deep into the history, we are in war with Russia for the past 300 years. And so I think that maybe the world has been preparing us for this, for being able to stand up and to save our independence and sovereignty of our beautiful country.
What did you learn about yourself? Because you saw a few young Ukrainians in the room as well. I learned a lot thanks to the work that I was privileged enough to do in Ukraine. I learned a lot from Ukrainians. But you were 26. You're now 30. It's no secret. You usually in Ukraine you don't ask a woman or you don't divulge your age, but now we know. But what did you learn about yourself in the sense that what would you wish for your fellow Ukrainians to learn as well?
That I can be very strong all of a sudden. That I could have been, a girl and live a simple, let's say, regular life. But then all of a sudden I learned that I can be actually very, very strong also inside of myself as mentally and can contribute to the development of my country, of Ukraine. And that, our country needs people with strong will these days. So please, young Ukrainians, you know what to do. So that's all about me. But what about you, Jeroen? Maybe you would like to share with the audience as well a little bit about your personal story.
Well, I'm the president of let's say helping Ukraine at this moment. But you're the future of Ukraine. I think what you said. One observation of Ukrainians that I would like to share is that you. Discover the strength in yourself that you didn't know you had, and I've seen that with some other people. And we have Natalia sitting here, who's become a dear friend. And a couple of years ago, when I came to Vilniansk, we always work in the field. So we go in the field to implement our projects, to control our projects, to find new things to do, which unfortunately in the frontline communities where we work isn't so difficult. And basically, I've come 3 times to Natalia, and one time she came to me, she walked up to me and said, Jeroen, I have to tell you something very difficult. And that was when she told me that her son died at the front. I'm even getting more emotional than Natalia got. She was emotional for a minute, and then she got a hold of herself. And she said, okay, what are we going to do next? You can see me, this is, even if I remember that, if I think back of that moment, that's the incredible strength of Ukrainians, but in particular, the incredible strength of Ukrainian women. This lady as well, her Natalia, the same mayor that you just saw here next to Femke Halsema, her house was destroyed by drones. She was just outside of the house. And another moment, this was last year, just I think around the previous forum, we always need like video reports and photos of the work that we're doing to show to our donors, right? Because we can only do the work thanks to our donors. And I was getting impatient with Natalia and said, "Where's the report? Where's the report?" I was typical Dutch, because I need to report to the donors, and the donors the donors everything. With the donors, everything starts. And then from Olga, I started calling Olga Krasko, who's standing over there, and I said, Olga, why don't I get this damned report? And then Olga told me, Natalia's assistant just got killed by a fragment of a drone that exploded at a location that was hit a second time, where they were just to investigate the destruction of the first time. So coming back to strength, and then I'm going to almost hand over to Leonard. Coming back to strength. This is something that Ukrainian women, first of all, have taught me. Ukrainian men as well, but men in what you learn in times of war, men like single focus, and you can send them on one assignment, and then they're happy to fulfill that one assignment. Women are amazing in the sense that they can balance many different priorities, very often still also their families. Now Natalia is taking care of her grandson, of her grandchild. So women are incredible on that. The strength I feel, and that's the only thing about me that I would like to share with all of you. So yes, I took a step to leave Russia, to leave my businesses behind, to close my businesses, to leave my real estate and my wealth behind. It was not because of something noble. I was just damn angry. I was just angry at those fucking Russians. And I said, okay, I have to do something. And I thought, okay, I can go to the Red Square, do a protest. That would have ended in 10 seconds with me being in jail for 10 years. So I thought, okay, what else can I do in order to try and make a difference? So that's just one decision. But then the thing that keeps you going, and this is what I think is what resilience is all about. The thing that keeps you going is basically what you can mean, the meaning that you can have for another person. It can be one person, it can be two people, it can be an entire town like Vilniansk, and like this we've worked in hundreds of towns all over the frontline regions of Ukraine. This is what true resilience is about. It's sort of stepping back with your ego, stepping back with your own interests, and putting yourself in the service of someone else. And this is something, and then I'll finish. This is something.
I'd like to ask you, Jeroen.
Yeah?
You have now a new website. What can people find on that website to support your organization? Is there a QR code which simply can be used to bring the money in and to help the work you've been doing as this incredible organization?
Well, there's a donate button, which beautifully designed by Jeroen Scholte there in the audience. So just go to the website. If you Google Lifeline Ukraine, or if you Google Ketting, or if you Google Ketting Ukraine or Jeroen Ketting, you come to LinkedIn or whatever, you can contact me. I would definitely say to the Ukrainians that are here, we are always in dire need of volunteers. So you can start helping Ukraine by helping us here. I got the cue, Leonard. Thank you very much. Resilience starts with doing something for the person next to you. That is maybe the only message that I would want to leave you with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jeroen and Alina, thank you so much for your story and also sharing the personal stories. I think everybody is touched by it, and this is really again about persons, about personal lives. Just checking in if everybody is okay behind me. All right. Let's have the second panel here on the table. Ruben Brekelmans, who's now member of parliament of the Dutch Liberal Party, but also the former Minister of Defense. May I invite you to the table, please? And next to you will be Denys Yaroslavskyi, Officer of Assault Forces Command from Ukraine. Very warm welcome to these two men. Maybe you can sit here and your translator is over there. Ruben Brekelmans already mentioned you are the former Ministry of Defense. You have been in touch with Ukrainian national politicians for a long period of time already. You have a lot of network connections with Ukraine already for a long time. What is, in your regards, the situation right now? What does the current situation of Ukraine tell us about the situation we here in the Netherlands are in ourselves?
I think if you look over the last 4.5 years, every moment in time and every phase of the war, Ukraine has been able to surprise us and to amaze us by being extremely innovative, by persisting, by showing remarkable courage, and being able not only to innovate but also do this on a large scale. And I think we were all afraid about last winter, which was a terrible winter for Ukraine, both, I think, at the front line, but of course the commander can tell much more about it. But for the whole of Ukraine, because of all the air attacks and taking out the electricity. And we were all hoping that Ukraine would be able, over the course of this year, to get into a better position. But the fact that they are able now to regain territory at the front line and are able to hit Russia where it hurts, mostly by, or to a large extent, by capabilities that they developed themselves. Of course, we are supporting them, but a lot of work Ukraine has been doing themselves. I think that shows that if we keep supporting Ukraine, then they will keep surprising us, and that makes it, look, every euro that we spend on support to Ukraine is worth it.
And talking about euros, the Netherlands is third in Europe of spending money to Ukraine, on supporting Ukraine for a relatively small country. How do you look upon, for example, France and the UK, who are below the Netherlands on this? Do they do enough?
They're not doing enough. I would say the UK and France are different. UK, the United Kingdom, is also doing a lot, and they are also taking leadership in many ways. But especially the southern part of Europe, many countries there, they should do much more. And in every single meeting that I was in as a minister, whether it was the EU or NATO or Ukraine Defense Contact Group, which is the support group for Ukraine, I always encouraged southern countries to do more. But unfortunately, what you see now within Europe, it's only a limited number of countries doing the heavy lifting. I think what has been very good is to have the EU loan, because we do this on the EU level. In fact, all countries are contributing in some way to this, so that's good. I think, to me, what keeps also surprising me is that countries in the south of Europe do not tend to understand that our security is so interconnected. So if Russia...
How vulnerable we are.
Yeah, if Russia becomes stronger in Ukraine, immediately Russia is a bigger threat to the rest of Europe. So every euro that we spend in Ukraine is a euro invested in our security. And you cannot only leave it up to 6, 7 or 8 European countries in the north to do everything. The others should follow as well. And we need to keep reminding them, and we need to keep pushing them every day.
You see those drones reaching far in Russia. On that hand, do you reconsider your position about the long-range missiles you do not want Ukraine to use?
Of course not, no. We always said, of course, for the Netherlands, international law is important. And we always said to Ukraine, in all the support that we gave to them, that it should be in accordance with international law. But it's all about self-defense. And Ukraine is allowed to defend themselves by also attacking Russia. And there is no limit to that in terms of kilometers of miles. That doesn't stop at 50, 100 or 300 kilometers. So if Ukraine keeps attacking positions that are relevant for the war machine of Russia and are relevant for the military of Russia, then it is in accordance with international law. And we have seen how Russia has been, attacking Ukraine also from further away. We have seen their logistical lines. And I think what Ukraine is doing now to hit those logistical lines and to hit that war machine of Russia, I think that's, as I said, the innovative way that they've been doing that has been truly remarkable.
Talking about that innovative way, and then I will ask questions also on you, Denys, but you have now supported a package for about 500 million euros, where the Dutch government is supporting Ukraine, but also to get something in return, which is the knowledge of the drone industry development on that case. Is that a little bit of a Dutch treat?
No, you see that more broadly. So if you look at all the support that we gave over time, there was always an element of learning from what's happening on the battlefield and what's happening in terms of latest development in war. So if you look at the pace of innovation, like every few weeks there is a new innovation. And of course we are facing the same enemy. We are facing Russia that is fighting a war every day, and that's also learning from it every day. So for us, supporting Ukraine is a way of, morally it's the right thing to do. It's in our own interest in terms of security. And now, at this point, Ukraine in many ways is way ahead of us. So for us, it's fundamentally important to learn from the experiences of Ukraine. And we do this with joint drone projects, and we're doing this by joint training, and that's very important.
Okay. Denys Yaroslavskyi, how do you listen to this pledge of this member of parliament?
По-перше, хотів би подякувати всім присутнім і вашій країні за підтримку України.
First of all, I would like to say thank you to the audience and to the Netherlands for support.
І вам дуже пощастило, що у вас такі молоді політики є в країні. Вони мислять креативно, інакше, Це круто.
You are very lucky to have so young, creative politics in your country who thinks in creative way and brings innovations.
Ми взагалі вижили тільки тому, що ми мислили креативно, неконвенційно і розуміючи, хто проти нас воює. Наша задача була вижити, і тому ми здивували весь світ.
Our goal was to survive, and we surprised the whole world with that we survived at the very beginning.
Зараз дійсно дуже, я від вас почув правильні речі, що ви у України навчаєтесь, тому що нас швидко навчатись змусила війна.
I heard the very right point about learning from Ukraine, because we learned because we had to.
На жаль, весь світ зараз трошки йде не тим шляхом, намагаючись дивитись, яку ми створюємо зброю, копіювати і створювати у себе. Це трошки невірний шлях.
Unfortunately, the world goes in a bit wrong direction, copying the weapons from Ukraine.
Ця війна є саме швидко еволюціонуючою в історії людства.
This war evolves in the fastest way in the human's history.
Ту зброю, яку ми сьогодні виробляємо на полі бою, через півроку можна вже класти в музей.
The weapons that we use now at the front line, in half a year, we can just put in a museum.
А багато країн зараз виробляють цю зброю, складують собі на склади. Це пуста трата грошей.
But many countries produce these weapons and put them in the storage.
Україна за вашу підтримку може надати вам дещо інше.
Ukraine can give you for your support something different.
Як ви сказали, це інновації,
Innovations,
освіта,
education,
та стратегічне мислення.
And strategical thinking.
Це неможливо скопіювати на принтери десь із китайських комплектуючих.
You cannot copy it and you cannot make it from Chinese parts.
Зараз ми зіштовхнулися з тим, що багато представників країн Європи бажають отримати наш бойовий досвід, але його, на жаль, неможливо отримати, не перебуваючи з нами на полі бою.
We are facing the situation when many European countries would like to learn from us and get this experience, but unfortunately it's almost impossible to get this experience not being in Ukraine.
З багатьма генералами, з якими я спілкуюсь, представниками коаліції охочих, я їм це пояснював.
I have spoken to many generals in Europe and USA, and I explained that to them.
Вони це розуміють.
They understand that.
Но політики не дають їм цього зробити.
But unfortunately, politics don't let them do this.
А неможливо навчитись війні на удаленці по онлайн.
You cannot learn the war from on remote.
Ви сказали, що багато країн Южної Європи не розуміють того, що буде війна. Це нормально. Ми ще в 22-му році не розуміли, що буде війна повномасштабна.
You mentioned that a lot of countries of Southern Europe don't understand that the war will come. But it's okay, because we didn't understand that before 2022.
А потім ракети, а потім Буча.
And then missiles, and then Bucha.
Тому зараз, якщо дійсно Європа бажає навчитись виживати, так як цьому навчились ми.
So now, if Europe really wants to learn how to survive as we learned it,
я би рекомендував вам на вашому рівні, перш за все, зробити все, щоб ми почали створювати спільну освіту, військову освіту.
I would recommend you on your place to start creating a mutual educational system.
На жаль, багато військових класичних європейців ще живуть минулою війною. Це теж нормально.
Unfortunately, a lot of military personnel, people, they still live in the past war.
Але ми пропонуємо вам жити майбутнім і стратегічно планувати майбутнє разом.
But we offer you to live by future, inspired by future, and to build this future together.
Denys, to understand you rightly, are you also suggesting that we, in a way, or that you invite for example, Dutch troops to be on the ground, to be in combat, to understand, to endure the same, to be as innovative and agile as your troops are?
Look. Північна Корея це зробила.
North Korea did that.
І сьогодні армія Північної Кореї – це не та армія, яка була під час нашої Курської операції.
And today, the North Korean army is not the same army as it was during the Kursk operation.
Це вже реальні воїни, які розуміють, що таке сучасна війна.
They are real warriors, and they understand what real and modern war is.
Ми не пропонуємо вам зараз воювати разом з нами, хоча це було б круто, і ми б давно вже перемогли.
We don't offer you to participate in the war together with us, but it would be, of course, nice, because in that case we would take victory already.
Ми пропонуємо хоча б, якщо ви бажаєте отримати ці знання, надсилати до нас ваші батальйонно-тактичні групи для проведення навчань разом, спільно.
We offer you to send your battalions to Ukraine for mutual trainings, exercises.
І, можливо, наші політики мене за це ще будуть ругати, але я військовий, кажу, як я бачу, як військовий.
And maybe Ukrainian politicians will be not happy with what he just said, but he is military, so he says it.
Yeah. Well, you have been, in a way, the leader of the Dutch military. How do you listen to this recommendation?
I fully understand the recommendation, because to really understand...
Skin in the game.
No, that's different. To really understand what's happening...
Why is that different?
Can I finish my sentence? So, if you want to understand what happens at the front line and what is needed in order to not only survive but to win, it's not enough to just have a conversation like we're having right now. You need to be more close, and you need to be more to engage in some way to fully understand that. On the other hand, there's a thin line, and that was a follow-up question. To the thin line between learning at the front line versus getting involved, because there's heavy fighting taking place there. And what you see over time, different countries finding ways to see more, actually, to learn more without being engaged. And of course, I cannot share the details about that, how that's organized and in what ways and everything.
So you're saying there are Dutch militaries involved on the ground?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we are finding ways. One of them is, for example, also doing exercises in Europe together. Also doing different scenarios where you see that it's quite easily for a Ukrainian drone unit to take out a Western battalion, for example. This is just one example, but there are many other ways that that you can share information, share experiences more actively. And of course, we're looking for ways. Secondly, there's been a lot of work has been done by the Coalition of the Willing, that if there would be a ceasefire, in case there's a ceasefire, then there are plans are being made to do joint exercises to also help the Ukrainian army to recuperate. But of course, the commander has been part also is part of the special forces, so he knows what I can say and what I cannot say. Part of the relationship that we have with Ukraine and the partnership that we have, it's not only simply about delivering weapons. It's also about providing the training that's necessary. Take, for example, the F-16s. We have been very involved in the training of F-16s pilots, and the other way around, it's also about sharing the knowledge in return, and we are finding ways to do that effectively.
Then, as you just mentioned, development goes very, very fast. The agileness of the Ukrainian army is very high. You also said, well, things we have been using in the beginning of the war should now be in the museum. How, in that regard, do you look upon the project between France and Germany to develop a joint strike fighter which is not coming from the ground? What can you tell them? What do you learn from this?
Ще в 24-му році ми пропонували зафіксувати наші бригади за країнами-партнерами.
Already in 2024, we suggested to tie our brigades to some units in Europe.
Таким чином створити щось на кшталт, може воно так звучить, країни та футбольної команди, які б все время соревнувалися між собою за технологічними розробками.
In that way, to create sort of a football team, and they would compete with each other in terms of innovations and lessons learned.
Всі країни, які зараз розробляють зброю, а ви як бивший міністр це розумієте, 80% коштів тратять на R&D від того, що вони розробляють.
All the countries that are creating or producing the weapons now, they spend at least or around 80% for research and development.
Таким чином, якщо б країни, наші партнери, мали умовно прямі відносини з якимись бригадами, а в свою чергу надали доступ цих бригад до ваших європейських, американських, британських високотехнологічних корпорацій, ми б змогли створювати те, що навіть зараз ви не уявляєте.
So in that way, if our brigades were assigned to some corporates, companies, and cooperated, we could have created something that nobody can imagine even now.
Я позавчора приїхав з виставки, яка проходила в Парижі по озброєнню, і я бачу, як всі виробники зброї бажають тестувати цю зброю в Україні та проводити спільні розробки, про які ви зараз сказали, в Україні. Це реальність.
2 days ago, I came from France from the military exhibition, and I saw how many manufacturers would like to test their weapons in Ukraine and cooperate.
Но, завершу, краще не акцентувати увагу на розробки якогось виду зброї, а акцентувати увагу на стратегічному майбутньому, на створенні спільних військових академій, які вже через 5 років випустять спільних курсантів, офіцерів вищого гатунку нової війни.
But it's even better to focus on creating something that we can call academy or mutual academy, united academy, something that where Ukrainians and NATO countries could learn together.
So Ruben, how do you listen to this, a sort of a European academy of the coalition of the willing between industry and the defense forces? The people in Ukrainian are open for using and testing those weapons. Is this something which is still sort of withheld on a European level? Why are we not speeding up?
No. I think that makes sense to me. The only question is, should you do this on a EU level, or can you do this with a group of countries, or can you do it within maybe in a NATO format? I don't know. But
what is your idea? What will work best? You have been Minister of Defense. You know the field in a certain way.
Best would be a NATO format, because in the end, most of our military doctrines, most of our military operations are done within NATO. But you should always be careful that it's not 1 or 2 countries then objecting it and then making sure that in that way basically blocking the effort. So you can then
what
also
is the second best option in your opinion?
The coalition of the willing.
Yeah, and who is in this coalition?
Everyone who's smart.
Mm-hmm. And what is the role of the Netherlands then?
No, the role of the Netherlands is also what we are doing now is, so when I was in Odessa, and I went to one of the counter-drone units. When I was there, it's not at the front line, but it's pretty close. And in that command center, there were 2 Dutch entrepreneurs there, one of a drone company, one of a radar company. And they are doing exactly this. So they have new drone systems, new radar technologies. But what the commander of that drone center said to me is that we don't need necessarily the newest and the best technologies. We need technologies that we can connect to our existing systems, because otherwise we have a drone that we cannot use. So these efforts, having the latest technologies within NATO or Europe or whatever, being tested on the battlefield, making sure that it's interconnected to all the weapon systems and all the technologies that are used, I think that can be done in a much more coordinated way. And I think that would be very useful.
And I think that's the reason Denys says make it into an academy to make sure that the language, not only the language literally, but also the language of the systems, the way it makes it as smart and effective as possible, is being spoken into one direction.
Yeah, sure. But I think what Ukraine also has told us and learned from us over the last 4.5 years is that they are extremely creative to use every type of support that they can. And what I have seen on an EU and NATO level is that some things go very slow. So we, as the Netherlands, for example, in my case, when I was Minister of Defense, we have been able in 2 weeks' time to provide 700 million. So when there was the opportunity, we have been able in 2 weeks' time to provide 700 million in drones, equipment and everything, because we had the opportunity to do that and we were able to move fast. That really helped Ukraine this winter, to get through this winter. If I had to wait as a minister before the EU or NATO agreed with it, then they probably wouldn't have had it right now, half a year later. So I'm fully on board with any type of academy and to do it more coordinated because it's more efficient. But since Ukraine is fighting a heavy war every day, let's make sure that we never slow things down. You know, we only need to accelerate.
Denys Yaroslavskyi. I can imagine that you listen to this sort of words, on one hand, of course, very positively, because it's warm-hearted that there are so much millions coming free and so much defense coming towards your direction. But I also hear something else, and that, in a way, Europe and also the Netherlands says, you're a great laboratory. Thank you for testing.
That's not literally my quote, but it's okay.
Дивіться. Так. Спробуй перевести так, щоб всі зрозуміли. Я спілкувався з журналістом, і вона задавала мені такі серйозні питання. Так от, я реаліст.
I have spoken to the journalists, and one of them asked me some serious questions. So I'm the realist.
Я б менше всього в житті бажав, щоб моя країна стала полігоном, але вона їм стала.
I would never want my country to become a testing environment, a polygon, but my country has become a polygon.
І дай Боже, щоб цим полігоном не стала вся Європа, а це можливо.
And I hope that Europe will not become this testing environment, but it's possible.
Росіяни взагалі совершили помилку, що вони першими пішли на нас, і вони б нас обламались. Вони, якщо б пішли не на нас, вони б вже були в Берліні, і я не шуткую.
Russia made a mistake by attacking Ukraine, invading Ukraine, because if they have invaded Europe, they would have probably been in Berlin already.
І, на жаль, Європа цього не розуміє ще.
And unfortunately, Europe doesn't understand it yet.
І дійсно, Європа і НАТО дуже зарегульовані, а війна требує маневреності. Ми тільки вижили, тому що ми маневрували.
And unfortunately, Europe is too regulated, but the war requires flexibility and speed.
І щодо академії, просто уявіть собі, якщо зараз ми, 25-річних хлопців, за всі країни Альянсу, почнемо навчати за нашими новими доктринами війни спільно.
And just imagine if we start teaching 25 years old people here in Europe together,
то вже через 5 років це вийдуть майбутні генерали, вони вийдуть друзями, і це будуть нове покоління військових, які разом навчались, разом мають спільне знання, і вони друзі.
And in 5 years, all of these graduates go out from the academy, and they will go out friends together.
It will be...
and become generals and become friends.
І зараз, щоб ви розуміли, в інтернаціональних полках, за які я в тому числі відповідаю, я знаю особисто, воюють більше 50 представників вашої країни за нас.
And now I know that there are some battalions or units in Ukrainian army where internationals participate in the war. And I know personally that around 50 people take participation in the war from your country.
І це наші друзі, і вони повернуться в вашу країну нашими друзями, пропитані українським духом.
And they are our friends, and they will come back to the Netherlands, our friends, Ukrainian friends. And they will feel this Ukrainian soul.
Так само, як я особисто свій будинок під Харковом звільняв разом з американськими солдатами.
The same way I liberated my own house in Kharkiv region with the American soldiers.
Okay. Not only you, but also your colleague Dmytro Karchenko has warned Europe, saying that in a way we are not prepared for the Russian strategy. Have you read this article in this weekend's papers? The Brekelmans? You haven't? No. You don't get a paper cut from your colleagues every day? It says in a way that he really doubts if NATO is able to survive those attack strategies from the Russians.
Yes, and that's of course why we last year in The Hague decided that we should invest much more in defense. We were only, some countries were doing more, but many countries were below 2%, which is, of course, if you look at the growing threat of Russia, it's definitely not enough, and we should move to 3.5% as soon as possible, and at the same time keep up our support to Ukraine. So that's true. And as a Minister of Defense, I've been warning and also conveying the same message almost every day. And what I'm afraid of is that, because so many things are happening in the world, people get distracted. And people think, okay, we can maybe slow things down a bit, or maybe if in the upcoming years, let's hope so, there will be a ceasefire or peace settlement in Ukraine, people might think, okay, the Russian threat is away. The Russian threat will never go away. And indeed, and I agree with the general, if we are not prepared for that, then Russia would be able to surprise us. And we should, as NATO and also as Europe, we should never be in this position. So that means investing a lot in defense, keep supporting Ukraine, and increasing our resilience.
Okay, so far we have, I think, listened very carefully to your advice to step up and especially to keep the speed up in the European defense industry, to make and become more innovative on one hand, to put the money where your mouth is on the other. You said I already did that for the last 4 years, tried to waken up other partners like Spain, like Portugal and so on. But there's more need for also the educational part and European Academy to get really understanding about the new ways of warfare, the new ways of approaching Russia as an enemy. I'm very curious how our audience has listened so far to these lessons of resilience and what does this mean for especially a younger generation to step up and to step up. Any questions or remarks are now open for the floor, please. Who is going to ask a question to both Mr. Brekelmans and Mr. Yaroslavskyi?
Sorry. I'm a civilian volunteer in Ukraine, in Kharkiv, also in Kiev, and I want to say to the audience, from 18 years old to 70 years old, you are welcome in Ukraine to work in a kitchen, to work in construction, to work anywhere. Look at the website volunteerukraine.com, and you can choose a city, and you can even come to me and talk about it. Because we need people, and it's the best thing I ever did in my life, and very rewarding. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can you repeat the website? Can you repeat the website?
It's Volunteer Ukraine. It's very simple on Google.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, other remarks or questions? I saw someone else in the back, I thought, but maybe you... No? Other remarks, questions? Yeah. Over there, and a lady over there first, maybe.
Hi, thank you very much. This is a question maybe to Mr. Brekelmans. For 4 years now, when, hearing the news from Ukraine, one of the prominent requests is to close the sky over Ukraine. And I was wondering how willing is the coalition of the willing to contribute to this initiative, and what is the latest stage of discussion now when it comes to closing the sky over Ukraine? That's it.
This discussion has been going on for, as you said, for quite a few years. And I think in the first years of the war, the main reason why this did not happen was because there was not enough international willingness or international support for that. Because closing the skies also means that you need to take out missiles, you need to take out drones, and then you get easily be involved in a war if those missiles hit. So there was a limited willingness internationally to do that. I think we now need to be even more realistic over the last 1 or 2 years, and then even the question, are we able to close the sky? If you look at the number of drones and the number of ballistic missiles that are used, I think it would be quite hard for NATO countries to close the skies in an effective way. We have seen some of the drone incursions within NATO territory, and we as the Netherlands, we had to use an F-35 to take out a Shahid drone. So I think that also shows us how much we as NATO need to invest in our air defense capabilities, in our counter-drone capabilities, in our and in other capabilities as well. As part of the coalition of the willing, if there is if there would be a ceasefire and there would be something like a peace agreement, then closing the skies partly in Ukraine could be part of this. That Western countries taking some of these responsibilities, but that would only be after a ceasefire and after a peace settlement. At this point, I don't see any international support for that to close the skies now. And as I said, to be fully honest, I would also doubt if countries would be able to do that. But currently, Ukraine has, not when it comes to ballistic missiles, but when it comes to drones and other cruise missiles, they have the best air defense.
Okay, thank you for the question. We will come back to you, but first we have someone over there. A question.
Yes, my name is Radboud Molijn. I belong to a different foundation, Netherlands for Ukraine. And we focus very much on the medical part. And I'm convinced that on a grassroots level, everybody of us can do more. We can give money, great. But for example, in the Netherlands, quite a number of medical equipments or medicines are being thrown away after a certain time. So what I do is I contact care institutions and I simply ask for medicines, incontinent material, blood transfusion material that are well before expiry date. And there is so much, and we send it to Ukraine, and we simply have contacts with hospitals so they can have a kind of list where they ask for certain equipment or certain materials. And that is on a very, perhaps, practical level. Yeah. But nevertheless, it works.
Okay.
And everybody of us has the possibility to do those things, I think.
So in a way you're saying, just think about your own surrounding, what possibly can be done on the practical level. Thank you so much. I saw another question over there. Yeah, please. By the way, Rogaye, who is handing the microphone, has made the program of today. She's the program maker here at the Balie.
Hello, good night. My name is Sophie. I first wanted to thank all of the great speakers of tonight for your inspiring stories. I have a question for Mr. Brekelmans. So in the first half, we heard all of the mayors talk about their city perspective and how the local networks are very resilient and how they can coordinate more to do more together. And I was wondering, from your perspective on the national and governmental view, how do you look about the coordination amongst cities as well in the Netherlands or maybe in Ukraine, where all of these great people are working together on city basis?
Okay. Mr. Brekelmans.
I think if you also look at last winter, but Ukraine can really use every help. And As a minister and also as a member of parliament, I've of course been mostly working on government-to-government level support. But if you see what's happening on a city-to-city level, but also all the volunteering that's happening, I see many familiar faces in the audience of people working for NGOs, initiatives like Lifeline Ukraine, and it's really making the difference. And to me, both as a member of parliament and as a minister, the most rewarding thing that I've been able to do is to help Ukraine. Because if you have been there, if you have seen, if we have one of the commanders here, he's talking, like a military commander, but you cannot imagine what he has seen in his life. Same is true for the mayors, what they have gone through, what they have seen, the death, the suffering, it's beyond imagination. And still they are sitting here being strong, also sometimes being critical towards us, pushing us. It's truly remarkable. So I think, all the work that people in the Netherlands are doing, whether it's on a government level, city level, or personal initiatives, it's really worthwhile. It's the most rewarding thing to do, and I can only encourage that.
Thank you so much. Okay, one or two last questions, or maybe one over there. Yep, please.
I have a question for Mr. Yaroslavskyi. What's the future of Crimea? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, talking about ceasefire possibilities, what will be the future of Crimea?
Ми здатні відрізати Крим від материка.
We are capable now of isolating the Crimea from the mainland. Thanks.
Мене мої політики вб'ють, коли я повернусь.
My politicians will kill me when I come back.
Я не думаю, що зараз військовим шляхом ми можемо повернути Крим прямо от зараз.
I'm not sure if we can get Crimea back in the military way.
Для того, щоб його повернути, ми повинні його зруйнувати до фундамента.
In order to get it back, we have to ruin it till the ground.
Поки що існує хоча б одна будівля, із неї буде йти оборонительний огонь. Нам прийдеться знищити цю будівлю.
Until that time, when at least one building is existing in Crimea, there will be somebody firing in Ukrainians in that building.
Ми не можемо самі зруйновувати свої землі.
We cannot destroy our land ourselves.
Ми вважаємо, що у нас буде ще історичний шанс, коли Росія почне сипатися по швам, і тоді ми повернемо своє, але не зараз.
We think that we will have this historical chance to get it back when Russia will start collapsing.
Історія знала багато прикладів, коли країни повертали своє багато років. Наприклад, Фінляндія, яка до сих пір, я вважаю, скоро поверне своє.
The history knows a lot of examples when countries got their territories back. For example, Finland is still waiting, and I think that Finland will get this chance as well soon.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone. Since the time is up for now. No. You can have your questions at the bar after this program. Thank you so much for joining. Also, thank you so much for joining at home when you are looking at the lifeline from the Balie. What I've heard so far, and I really like to thank our distinguished guests here also on the table. Give them a big hand. That even from a military perspective, especially talking for the Krim, for example, the only answer is humanity. Thank you so much.